we've had a big zoomed out look of the steps that go into making this KLT. And I should say I haven't neglected to talk about conclusions at the end of this, but let's actually use an article that's not included in the KLT, and I'll sort of model how we might do this. Okay, so I will make this available to you on Classroom, but I've got an article here that you can see, an opinion piece from The Guardian about Greta Thunberg, and I guess her ability to capture international sort of headlines and the attention of international political leaders in the climate debates. Okay, so it's not too long. There's some activities at the end there. Don't worry too much about those. I'm more concerned with using this to sort of put together a mock introduction and paragraph 1, so you can see exactly what goes into this kind of analysis. So we know that this is our template for an introduction, okay? So if we are to use this template, and we're looking at this particular article here about Greta Thunberg, what I might ask you to do now actually is just take 4 to 5 minutes to actually read this article before you have a look at the introduction that I've put together. Okay, so pause the video here, read through the article and have a look, so that you know exactly what it's about and you can see these key components that go into the introduction. Okay, so if we're coming back, the introduction that I've put together looks like this. Recently, the issue of student activism on climate change, okay, because that's kind of the broad issue, has received widespread media coverage. In an editorial titled The Guardian View on Greta Thunberg Seizing the Future, because that's the title of the article, published in The Guardian on the 24th of April 2019, the writers of The Guardian newspaper argue that the human race needs to listen to Greta Thunberg and get serious about climate change before it's too late, okay, because that is the overall contention of the piece, which you'll know since you've now read it. The text is aimed at 2 specific audiences of readers who are concerned about climate change and politicians who have the opportunity to legislate in this area, I should say, and also to a wider audience of the Australian public. Okay, so they are the 3 audiences that I have kind of chosen based on my assessment of the piece. You could have had something different. That is okay as long as it's defensible in your argument. So putting the introduction together shouldn't be too hard. The toughest thing is going to be actually discerning the argument that's being made, the contention, and the audiences, okay? But once you've had a little bit of practice at that, you'll be okay. So we move on then. So we've put together our introduction. We then want to identify the chunks in our argument, right? So I've already sort of prepared this, but check it out. I've annotated and I've chunked this myself. Obviously ignore this kind of yellow stuff because that's where I've created an annotation. But loosely I've got this green chunk here. I've said that that's the first chunk, and the kind of key idea is that Greta Thunberg has captured the world's attention and is foregrounding the issue of climate change, okay? That's what's addressed here. Second chunk kind of encapsulates these 2 paragraphs here. And the key gist of that is that although we know the dangers of climate change and how urgent the need to address it is, we still do nothing. Yeah, that's the key argument that's made in that second sort of chunk. And then the third chunk again is a bit sprawling, goes over a few paragraphs. You probably could have broken this up into 2, but I didn't want to make it too long. Third chunk is that we can be hopeful that things are changing, in brackets, thanks to young people. So that's the overall gist of this third chunk here. So that is how I've done the chunking of this article, okay? And so I've identified those chunks and I've summarized really briefly the key ideas that are contained within, all right? So that's what I've done in terms of identifying the chunks, and that's where we're going to end this video.